In 1584, a group of explorers set out to discover the treasure that could change the world. What they found, however, was far beyond any riches they could imagine, a discovery that would vanish without a trace until the world was ready to know again.
The forgotten treasure of the New World. It was the summer of 1584, and the sun burned high over the dense forests of the New World. For weeks, a group of English explorers had been struggling through the wilderness, led by a young adventurer named Thomas Ashford. Their mission? To uncover riches beyond their wildest dreams, gold, silver, and the promise of immortality and history. But what they were about to discover would rewrite everything they knew about the world. The map that changed everything. The expedition began with a simple cryptic map, a piece of parchment uncovered in a forgotten ruin during a previous journey. Its markings were strange, its meaning unclear, but Thomas had always been fascinated by the unknown, and the idea of a hidden treasure kept them moving forward. Weeks turned into months, and the explorers battled everything from dangerous wildlife to harsh conditions. Morale was low, and many of the men questioned whether the treasure was worth the cost. But one thing kept them going: the promise of glory and untold riches. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the location marked on the map, a spot deep in the heart of what would later be North Carolina. It was here, at the edge of an ancient forest, that they saw it. A glowing stone, partially obscured by vines and moss, radiating an otherworldly light. The warning. Thomas approached the stone, his heart racing. As his fingers brushed its surface, an icy chill spread through his body. The air grew heavy, and suddenly he heard a voice, not in his ears, but in his mind. It was faint, yet unmistakable. "Do not take what does not belong to you." The voice was not human. It was ancient, almost as though it were from another time or another world. Thomas stepped back, his hands trembling. His companions looked at him in confusion, but he could not shake the feeling that they had crossed a line. Something about this place felt wrong, but the lure of discovery was too powerful to ignore. "Let's continue," Thomas said, though his voice lacked conviction. He had never felt fear like this before. Into the cave. The glowing stone marked the entrance to a cave, its mouth wide and inviting. The walls were lined with strange carvings, images of ancient rituals, figures in ceremonial dress, and symbols that no one in their party could understand. The air inside was thick with dust, and the further they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. As they reached the center of the cave, they discovered something far more than mere treasure. A large stone altar sat in the middle of the cavern, and upon it, wrapped in cloth, was a massive stone tablet. It radiated power, and as Thomas lifted the cloth, the room seemed to come alive with energy. The tablet was covered with strange, glowing symbols. When Thomas placed his hands upon it, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low rumble filled the air, and the walls began to crack. "What have we done?" one of the explorers whispered. Before anyone could respond, the cave began to collapse. The collapse and disappearance. With a deafening crash, the earth shook violently, sending stones and debris raining down around them. The explorers screamed in terror as they scrambled toward the exit, but the cave was closing in too quickly. The stone tablet, now glowing with an intense light, seemed to pull the very walls of the cave together. Then everything went black. A terrifying awakening. Thomas awoke in the middle of a forest, his body aching from the fall. The air was thick with silence, and there were no signs of his companions. The cave was gone, and so was the tablet.
He wandered for hours, disoriented and unsure of where he was. His heart pounded as he realized he was alone, stranded in a world that felt both familiar and impossibly foreign. His thoughts raced. Had he dreamed it all, or had they uncovered something far older and more powerful than they had ever imagined? After days of wandering, he finally stumbled upon the ruins of a village, a place that seemed to echo the carvings he had seen inside the cave. But there was no sign of life, no trace of his men. It was as though they had never existed. The return to England. Thomas returned to England, desperate to tell his story, but no one believed him. His tale of a glowing stone and an ancient civilization was dismissed as a fevered dream. He was ridiculed, his claims chalked up to the delusions of a man who had spent too much time in the wilderness. Yet Thomas knew what he had seen. The tablet, the strange energy, it had all been real. It was not just treasure they had uncovered. It was a key to something far greater, something that had been hidden for millennia. Years passed, and Thomas's story faded into the realm of legend, whispered about by those who still believed in the power of the ancient world. But deep in the heart of the new world, in a place where the map still led to, something waited, something older than any civilization, waiting for the moment that it would be discovered again. The reappearance of the mystery. Centuries later, in the late 19th century, another group of explorers stumbled upon the same site, guided by the same cryptic map. The glowing stone had reappeared. This time, however, they were prepared. They knew what they had to do. But even as they entered the cave and uncovered the hidden tablet, they couldn't shake the feeling that history was repeating itself. Would they too unlock the power of the ancient race? Or would they too, like Thomas Ashford, become another forgotten footnote in the mystery of the New World?